Welcome all of you to this session. This is Power Monday session. We always have this every single Monday, and we are pleased to have all of you. You can always log in using the same link every other day. Power Monday is brought to you through Live Your Dream. Live Your Dream is a capacity development organization that offers various services, including business development training, talks. We provide leadership training, we provide sales mastery courses, and all sorts of things. You can learn more from liveyourdream.co.ke. We've been there for over 10 years. Power Monday has been there for 4 years now and going strong every single Monday, unless it is a holiday in Kenya, public holiday. And today people log in from across the continent and beyond, and we are pleased with that. It's free, no strings attached, but there are more people, even in our WhatsApp group, who are form part of the community, and we will continue to chat. For this session, whenever you have a question, you will be putting it in the chat. You can also put where you're logging in from. This is the second time we're going to have Derek Bbanga. Yeah, he was here for public image, I think last month, if not last month, but one, and it was fantastic. This is the topic that he had suggested first to take, but then we suggested that we hold it for the month of May, and now is the time. So Derek loves this topic. He says self-awareness is the beginning of becoming more emotionally intelligent, and everything else leads from there. He's a trainer, he's a coach, he's a facilitator. He's got a company called Public Image. He's been supporting organizations, individuals, and teams in various sectors to become better. And he's got very wide experience. He's multiple TEDx speaker and contributor in the media, and he's very well schooled, yes, abroad and within. He has a degree from SHU University in Connecticut. He's got an MBA, and we are pleased to have him. I do not want to read the whole thing. It's a great opportunity to have you again, and welcome on. And let's get started. We save as much time as possible.
Sounds good to me. Fantastic. Good morning, everybody. And you guys can hear me and see me. If you can hear me and if you can see me well, we always have to do this at the beginning just to make sure that we're on track. Just put a thumbs up or a yes in the chat. Just put a yes or a thumbs up to show that you can hear me and you can see me very clearly. And last time I was here, I remember I wanted to share some slides with you. So I'm going to try and do that again today. I'm hoping that we will have success this time and I'll be able to share not just my feelings. Feelings, that's a word I'm going to repeat a lot. My feelings about this particular topic, because to me, emotional intelligence, first of all, that is the currency of doing business in the 21st century. Emotional intelligence. You look at any which way that you turn, emotional intelligence is something that we need. The way that we speak to the people who are nearest and dear to us, we need some emotional intelligence. The way that we communicate, particularly in the professional world, emotional intelligence there. In a world where increasingly our lives are being irrevocably changed by artificial intelligence, AI. AI is the mainstay, and research has shown that in a world of AI, and I'm going to share some of these things with you, AI is absolutely necessary. So let's get into it. Just going to bring up my slides here. And first of all, do me a favor. Can you just jot down, hopefully in the piece of paper that you have, do me a favor, jot down the emotions that you can remember over the last 24 hours. So go back to this time yesterday. Yesterday was what? Sunday. This time yesterday. Just jot down the emotions that you can remember. Write them down. The emotions that you can remember this time yesterday. Okay. This time yesterday, what emotions do you remember? Let's see if we can get this slideshow moving. Okay. Okay, I can see a few coming up. Anxiety, overwhelmed. Yeah, okay. Right. Let me actually go into the chat over here. Actually, write down as many as you can remember. Excitement, fear, joy, love. Fantastic, fantastic. All right, guys, just in the interest of time. You know what? Actually, let me tell you something very interesting. In a 24-hour period, plenty of research has shown that we experience up to and over 20,000 emotions. However, for the vast majority of us, just in this simple activity, the emotions that we remember are very few. They are the ones that are either very strong or unhealthy or very powerful or overriding. But every decision that you have made since this time yesterday has been predicated on some sort of feeling, mood, emotion. I'm going to use those words interchangeably. But not every decision that we have made has been conscious in terms of that particular mood or feeling or emotion. In other words, we don't have the capacity to be able to recognize every emotion that we are feeling and then be able to make a decision that's either going to work in our favor or in the favor of our target market. And part of emotional intelligence is being able to begin to have a self-awareness of each of these individual emotions and how they can affect every decision we make. And every decision we make, if we make particular decisions, particularly on a regular basis, people say that is a pattern of behavior. That is how so-and-so behaves in this situation. And behavior ultimately can affect performance. So as I mentioned last time, to me, having a superpower, being able to be seen, heard, and remembered, but in this case, emotional intelligence is absolutely a superpower for the ages and one that we need. I want you also to think about the best boss that you have ever had. Think about the best boss that you've ever had. Now, it can be a mentor, it can be a teacher, it can be a coach. Think about somebody that you have worked with in the past closely who was a boss, a mentor, teacher, coach. Now, I want you to write down, you can jot down the initials if that helps you. So this is your best boss. Now, I want you to tell me, what are the 3 words that you could use to describe what it was like working with, working for, being in the same room as this best boss? So just write down 3 words, and I've handily provided some words there that might help you. So the 3 words to describe what it is being with your best boss, current or past. Okay. Now I want to take you to the dark side, and with apologies if this brings up PTSD. I want you to think of the opposite of the best boss, somebody who's a little bit more challenging to work with. Indeed, I'll call him the worst boss, teacher, mentor, coach. And again, just write down the 3 words you could use to describe what it was like being in the same room, environment, situations with these particular people. All right. So I wanted you to 3 words for your best, 3 words for your most challenging. Dare I say your worst? In fact, if I was to ask you, because boss implies that there was some work that needed to be done, there was a goal that you were trying to achieve, there was somewhere that you were going in terms of that particular environment that you're with. How engaged were you with either one of these bosses? Were you very engaged with one as opposed to not engaged? Some of you may have heard of the term called quiet quitting, which is a phenomenon that came particularly as a result of the way our lives was changed 2 or 3 years ago, where people come into a working environment, they come into an office, they may put their jackets on the table, but they've checked out. They either physically leave the office, or if they're working at home, they are engaged in the myriad of activities that can take us away from the task at hand. And part of that might be due to the fact that you are either working with somebody who's either really great or not so great in terms of getting the best out of you. I'm just going to skip ahead. If you think about the best boss and the worst boss, and you think about the 3 words that describes them, actually what you have just done is you have described in a very sort of rudimentary and simple fashion their emotional intelligence, because your engagement with that best or worst boss was based on how that boss showed up. If a boss shows up and he is rude, he's arrogant, he's constantly belittling you or making you feel that particular way, this is how the boss shows up, particularly in those situations. And how he shows up determines the way that you felt, and the way that you felt also, to a large extent, determined your engagement with him. Whether you felt that you were motivated to work for this person, that you'd run through a brick wall for him, that you would go the extra mile. And that pretty much sums up what I would call a relationship. Now, you can even flip this coin, and actually I want you to do this. And I want you, instead of thinking about this boss, I want you to think of yourself. Today is a Monday morning. You are going to show up, hopefully in a professional environment, whether working from home or actually physically going to an office. How do you show up? Do you show up in ways that encourage people from the minute you walk through that door, people gravitate towards you? Or do you show up in ways ukiingia kwa ofisi, people say tulikuwa tunaenda, because nobody wants to be around you, because the energy you're bringing from whatever happened this weekend happens to turn people off. What energy do you bring? And by the way, make no mistake about it, there is a transfer of energy. You know, when I started doing this coaching for a living, I remember that I would be, you know, sometimes you'd go home after, you know, a hard day of training, and I would be exhausted, tired, you know, knackered. And I realized that, you know, in spite of my fitness, that I was actually absorbing the energy of the people that I was working with. So you go into a room and you're supposed to talk to 20, 25 people, and there's a certain energy they give off. Hopefully positive energy, but very often, you know, people might be giving off energy that's not so positive. And before I knew anything about emotional intelligence, I went and I did some research, and I purchased, and I'm going to show you this. So this is a smoky quartz. And this is, it's like a gemstone. Let's just call it a healing crystal. Now, before I go any further, let me just say I am a Christian. So what I'm about to say, see you, Charlie. But God, in his infinite wisdom, if you were to dig down into the earth right now, you will find oil, limestone, who knows, rocks. But there are these crystals, of which there are literally hundreds. And some of you will be in the know about this. And they have certain properties. Let's call them healing properties. And these properties, so this is, you know, it is mined, okay? Somebody has shaped it into this fashion so that it fits nicely in my palm. This one, as I said, is called the smoky quartz. This particular crystal, and like I said, there are hundreds, has the ability, the power. If I hold it in my hand, remember coming home tired from a day of training or coaching, and you have all of this negative energy. Well, I need to drop this crystal, and all of that energy somehow goes into this crystal, and I don't feel tired anymore. Now, whether you choose to believe me or not, that's not the debate here. The fact is that there is somehow a transfer of energy that is happening. And that transfer of energy is largely based on what I would call your emotions, your mood, your feelings. So if you're naturally feeling upset, irritated, anxious, angry, maybe strong and healthy emotions, that is definitely going to be felt by the people who you're in close proximity to. Ideally, the people that you work with. And that is what I mean by showing up. And that showing up directly affects people's feelings. People say all the time, check your feelings at the door. There's no room for emotions at work. There is absolutely room for emotions. But emotional intelligence is about managing those emotions. It's about controlling those emotions. It's about using those emotions in a way that is going to help you and help the people around you. So I hope that that sort of begins to give you an idea of what I mean by emotional intelligence. Actually, this is a great quote I love. Culture is how employees and hearts and stomachs feel about Monday morning on a Sunday night. Last night, how did you feel about waking up this morning and having to go into work? That is, people might call it the culture of an organization, but the culture of an organization is shaped by how people show up in that organization. You can show up on a Monday morning, somebody says good morning to you, and your response is what's good about it. That's you showing up in some sort of way by that flippant remark. But do you know, somebody can take that response and they'll go maybe to the kitchen and they'll ask somebody else, hey, where was the coffee that was there on Friday? And then the response is, when you've been put in charge of the kitchen. And again, a remark that might not seem that significant, but there is a transfer of that irritation or anxiety. And that can seep into an organization, into a department, indeed can change the culture of an entire organization. This is why it is so important for each and every one of us to manage those emotions that we bring. And by the way, just like I asked you to name some of these emotions that you felt, they can affect us in ways that are subconsciously. Subconsciously, I might have woken up and I might have been a little irritated from something that happened this weekend, or a conversation I had, or somebody that I met, or the fact that my football team lost, but it can change my tone of voice. It can change my nonverbal communication. Indeed, it can change how I perceive certain events to happen. And if I'm changing the way certain events happen, I'm changing decisions, and those decisions are changing my behavior and affecting my performance, which is why it is so important for you to stay on top of how you are feeling. When we say that self-awareness is the gateway to emotional intelligence, self-awareness is about just being able to check in with yourself about how you are feeling at any particular time. Now, there are obvious times to do it, like maybe in the morning, check in with yourself before you go into Power Monday, or before you go into a meeting, or before you start the week. How am I feeling? Am I feeling a strong and healthy emotion, or am I feeling great about myself? And then begin to investigate yourself. Where did that come from? And you might find in that investigation that you find the source of what that irritation or anger or unhealthy emotion is, and maybe you're able to prevent it next time. But the fact is, checking in with yourself on a regular basis. And for me, I do it as often as I can. It might be every hour on the hour, certainly before important meetings like a Power Monday, or before I go into my next engagement today. How am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? What do I need to do in order for me to manage that strong emotion? By the way, it's not about killing the emotion. It's not that I don't want to feel irritated or anxious. That is a valid emotion. Emotions are data. They simply tell us about what is going on with ourselves. But if I'm feeling that strong emotion, what do I need to do in order for me not to transfer that energy to the people that I will be engaging? Okay. Across the world, organizations are driving change, particularly in the world we live in today. We're engaging people of different groups, whether it's millennials or Gen Zs, okay, or baby boomers like myself. We're looking to execute various strategies. We're looking for agile leadership. All of these things can be won or lost or predicated on how the people who are responsible for driving this change manage the emotions in any given situation. And like I said before, AI has made the rise of the rise of AI has made emotional intelligence even more important. Okay. Readers are leaders and leaders are readers. Here's a fantastic book called The Molecules of Emotion, which talks a little bit about that transfer of energy that I was talking about, that is predicated on how we show up and how we feel. So you can take a screenshot of that. This is a fantastic book for you to read, or an audio book indeed to listen to. So let me give a more, shall I say, sophisticated definition of emotional intelligence. So it's the ability to recognize, okay, and manage these moods, these feelings that we have. Remember, it is not about not feeling them, but it is about managing them, recognizing that they are telling us something, they're giving us data about something that may be in our recent or distant past. What is important is to act more intentionally with that data that you're being given. Act more intentionally. The fact is, every time I get on the road and I drive my car, a matatu cuts me off, I feel some kind of way. Previously, the way I used to act was to chase that matatu. By the way, matatu meandikwa rude boys for life, so that was their philosophy, but I would go out of my way, leave the path I was going, chase that matatu so I could yell at the driver because he cut me off in traffic. Was that me managing my emotion? Absolutely not. Today, same matatu cuts me off, but rather than chasing the matatu and yelling at the driver, I tend to empathize with the driver. He doesn't have a driver's license from a valid driving school. He has to give half his money over to his boss, and that's why he drives that way. You know, he didn't get a good night's sleep. Whatever story I can tell myself, in order for me to empathize, manage that anger so that it simmers down, maybe a slight irritation, but I don't bring that into the office and then show up in a way that's detrimental. Notice and act intentionally. There's a model here of emotional intelligence that I love. Again, you can take a screenshot of this. We won't go through all of them. I have mentioned some of them. Self-awareness, for example, having an awareness of others, self-management. And you can see you have, when you are not managing that emotion, how you feel on that side, either disconnected or insensitive or acting temperamental, or indeed, when you are managing that, you are now an empathetic leader. You are an empathetic colleague. You are an empathetic partner to the person in your life. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise these productive states with every single action that we take. And we're trying to lower the unproductive states that many of us find ourselves in. Actually, let's examine a couple of these. Self-awareness. So again, I said self-awareness is checking in with yourself, finding out how you're feeling. Here's a longer definition: being aware of the behavior you demonstrate, your strengths, your limitations, and the impact you have on others. Now, in the chat there, I would like you to give yourself a score out of 10, with 1 being low, 10 being high. How would you rate your self-awareness? How would you rate your self-awareness? Again, give yourself a score out of 1 to 10, and just put them in the chat there in terms of your self-awareness based on this particular definition. How would you rate yourself? Okay, let's see if I can get the chat and see how people rate themselves. Okay. We have 9s. Somebody's a 10. Fix up. Good for you. I need to know your secret. A couple of 7s, a few 8s, a 9. Okay. All right. Well, you know, listen, this is obviously for you to be able to investigate how it is that you behave in certain situations. And by the way, based on that score, How did you arrive at that score? What are the things that you think that you do on a daily basis, decisions that you make, behavior that you exhibit, performance that you show, that allowed you to give yourself that score? Okay. Awareness of others. Okay, and awareness of others, remember, if you're not, you are temperamental. If you are, the productive state is you're empathetic. And by the way, empathy is, that is one of the key things that all of us need in the world that we live in today. So noticing and acknowledging others, ensuring how other people behave, and adjusting perhaps your style. Could be even your leadership style, your communication style, your thinking style, to best fit with the people around you. Again, give yourself a score from 1 to 10 on awareness of others, which is a key sort of pillar, plank, or trait in certainly my definition of emotional intelligence. What score would you give yourself? Okay, I can see a 7, a couple of 8s, a couple of 8s. You guys are ranking yourselves really high, which I don't have a problem with. A 9, good grief, thank you very much. An 8, 6s, 5s. Again, examine how you relate to other people. Why do you give yourself that score? Just think about the situation, and think about the people, particularly the people who rub you the wrong way, the customers who are difficult to get along with, the boss who is just from another planet. Okay? Think about the people that you encounter who make it very difficult for you to move on with your day. And ask yourself if you adjust your behavior to match how they come. By the way, can you change an arrogant boss? Can you change a difficult customer? Can you change a partner who is determined to sabotage a relationship? Maybe you can. But actually, emotional intelligence is not about changing the way that person speaks to you or the way that person acknowledges you. It is about changing your feeling about how that person, change the way that how that person makes you feel. Let me say that again. And think about it. It's almost like taking away the power. You can yell at me, but if that yelling doesn't trigger me, or doesn't make me feel anxious, or doesn't make me feel annoyed, then I have taken away the power that yelling might have on me. And therein lies the rub that a lot of us don't recognize. I can't control what happens outside there. I can control my reaction to it. And so it's such a powerful thing. It is about having an ownership of my feelings, an ownership certainly about the decision I'm going to make, regardless of the situation or the event that I am in. Let's just do one more, which is about self-management. So self-management, again, that's managing your mood, your emotions, your behavior. Give yourself a score from 1 to 10. What score would you give yourself in terms of managing yourself? Okay, let's see if these are the scores that are coming in. I see an 8 and a 6. I don't know if those were the previous scores or if these are the ones, but score yourself on managing your mood and your emotions. Okay, I can see a 5, 6s, couple of 8s. Okay, not bad. 7.5, a 10. Who is this? Bbanga, wonderful. 9s, 7s, 7s. This is an emotionally intelligent group that you have here on a Power Monday. I'm excited. So again, what is it? Continuous improvement, continuous checking in with yourself. Just literally at the end of every week, I will journal, I will write down, particularly those situations that I faced that were challenging for me. I write them down. I can sometimes use that model, and I just say to myself, how did I feel? Okay? Not necessarily how did I handle it, but how did I feel? Now, of course, how I felt then led me to make some kind of a decision or to behave in a certain way, and ultimately perfected my performance. But if I can see a pattern of behavior, when I'm in these situations, this is usually how I react. This is usually the decision I make. This leads to this kind of behavior. Then I can correct the ship. I can see a pattern of behavior and say, I'm going to double down on that because it is positive, or I can look and say, this is the way I talk, or I get this. And by the way, you can also get feedback from other people. Feedback. How did I handle that particular situation? And then, of course, begin to improve myself. Yeah, so this is just repeating what I've said. Dealing with our emotions intelligently enhances our behavior and certainly our performance. You know, let me share with you a little story. Google set out on a quest to find the ingredients of the perfect team. Okay. Now, Google is a company with a footprint in virtually every country, if not every continent. So amongst its thousands of employees, it was very easy to do this kind of research. They went to every single Google office around the world and found, and talked to the team members, talked to team leaders, talked to HODs. What are the things, the ingredients for a perfect team? And as you can see on the right, it wasn't personality type, it wasn't skills, it wasn't background, it wasn't academic qualifications, it wasn't technical know-how. In fact, the who didn't matter. Let me show you. Look at that. So you have impact, meaning, structure, clarity, dependability. That's what the research said. But number one is this thing called psychological safety, which, by the way, if you haven't already been clued in, is an intricate part of this topic of emotional intelligence. The ability for people to be able to speak up, take risks, be vulnerable, being vulnerable, showing weakness, asking for help, asking for feedback, not going it alone. Is that the environment that you operate in professionally? Whether you're an entrepreneur, I know there's some doctors in the house. Are your nurses able to do that? Are people able to speak up in that environment? There is story after story about this thing. I'm going to share one with you. It actually has to do with, let me come back to this and then I'll share the story. It has to do with Boeing. So there's a lot written there. It's an environment where there is this thing called interpersonal trust. People can be certainly the best version of themselves, but it's safe for them to rock the boat, to challenge the status quo, to confront leaders, to say, this is maybe not the way things should be done, or maybe there's an alternative way, and without, again, repercussion or risks of being ostracized. By the way, this is not about a woo-woo environment where all comers are taken in and you can float your silly ideas and we'll allow you to behave the way we want because we want you to provide an environment. No. Make no mistake about it. If you're a team leader, if you're a boss, if you're somebody who's responsible, you have to make certain difficult decisions. And it's not about eliminating that conflict, but it's about providing an environment where people under certain circumstances are able to give this constructive feedback, if you will. Not creating an environment where mayhem is the order of the day, okay? This is the story, Boeing. Now, I'm sure all of us are aware of the myriad of problems Boeing has experienced over the years. I mean, we can start with those disastrous airline crashes, Malaysia, the one in Ethiopian Airlines. I mean, we're talking about a loss of life here. And up till today, where senior managers have been fired, you have doors falling off planes, and generally Boeing, this mainstay of a company in the aerospace industry, is now certainly, if not on its last legs, is teetering very close to the edge. And the root of this can be found in the fact that people who had issues with certain standards, goals that Boeing had set Okay, and the way the airline industry works, it's very simple. You know, Emirates orders 100 airlines, and they need those aircraft by, say, 2025. So there's a certain timeline that needs to be met in order for the airlines to be produced and delivered to the client. And in all of this, certain standards were not being met. And when people spoke up, they were ostracized. They were taken to the back of a room. They were shut up. They were fired. I mean, you go into this Boeing story and the stories are out there. I mean, even all the way to, this has gone all the way to through the judicial system. But you think about the consequences of this. I mean, we're talking about a loss of life here. That is how disastrous it can be for that kind of lack of emotional intelligence. So again, bring this into the context of the environment that you operate with. And not result in necessarily the loss of life, but it can still be detrimental to the success of your business, the success of your entrepreneurship, the success of your relationship, particularly in the professional world. I think I'd like to end with this little excerpt from this gentleman. And I can't remember if I played this last time. Did I play this last time? I'm not quite sure.
No,
I don't
you
think
didn't.
I didn't. All right. So let me go ahead and play. Yeah, of course, because I had issues with the. So I'm going to, it's subtitled just in case you can't hear the words. So I'd like you to listen. Of course, this is Jack Ma. I believe he's alive. Again, the Chinese don't play. That's a whole other conversation about, you know, how particularly the authorities in China deal with people who are successful. But anyway, Jack Ma, maybe not the force he was once on the world stage, but this is an excerpt from a speech that he gave at the World Economic Forum a few years ago.
I believe if a person wants to be successful, we should have a high EQ. But if you don't want to lose quickly, you should have a high IQ. But if you want to be respected, you should have high LQ, the Q of love. So those three Qs put together, a lot of men, they have a high IQ but low EQ, and a very tiny LQ. Women balance-wise, they're the best. If you want your company to be successful, if you want your company to operate with wisdom, with care, women is the best.
Okay, so we can have a conversation about whether women perhaps are more emotionally intelligent than men. But you know what is, I love this clip because he talks about the Q of love. He talks obviously about the emotional quotient, and Q is quotient, and the love quotient. And here's how I interpret this. I think if you bring to the table that Q of love and that emotional intelligent Q, by the way, those two put together are what I call emotional intelligence. If you walk into an office and you have love for the people that you work with, you have love for your customers, you have love for your industry, the chances are that you will be empathetic. The chances are that you might inspire people. The chances is that you will have some sort of modicum of self-awareness and so on and so forth. I think I might be having issues with my camera. But to me, bringing those two and counterbalancing it with our academic credentials and your technical know-how. In fact, in any organization, you will find that generally speaking, the people who make it to the top are the ones who are able to show a large amount of emotional intelligence. Okay, let's just wrap up here as I finish. I'll leave that out. Just a few things that I want to show over here. Okay. We are not thinking machines who feel. We are feeling machines who think. In other words, the first port of call in any situation that we find, it is about managing what is going on in this brain of ours, this noggin. And then that leads to any decision that we might make concerning our target market. And by the way, what is an area that might be of improvement for you? If you look at that particular model that I showed you, emotional intelligence. And again, I asked you to rate yourself. Now go through that entirely and go through it on a regular basis, as I've said, and ask yourself, what would be the areas that I would need to work on? So guys, I'm just going to leave it there for now. And perhaps open the door for questions as I hand it back to the team. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Derek.
Okay.
That's fantastic. As we say, it's not possible to have just enough of this, and I believe that dose is good enough for the time being, and we are well enlightened. Yeah? I know many of us will bring debates about that short clip, but it's great. It's a good way to think about things.
Sure.
So welcome all the people who are here. So far, I'm yet to see a question put in the chat, but we have very great comments from people here. Deborah says, thank you for an awesome session. Mori says, excellent. Real Power Monday. The Ambola says, great presentation, mind-boggling, from artificial intelligence to emotional intelligence and vice versa. Catherine says, thank you very much. Liked the search output, is liked the research output done by Google. Let's put anyone with a question that you feel may need to be addressed. And in the meantime, also, my friend, you can put your contact there. Usually after we are done, people start asking, help me with this contact, help me with this contact.
Sure thing.
It's a good time to put that. Yeah.
Actually, I'll just share a slide that should have.
Yes.
Put it up there. Hang on.
If we get the last week. Yeah, real power for the week. I hope we get the slides. Someone is hoping we get the slides. If you share them, of course, I will share with them. And Derek, what are your thoughts on the introduction of EI? Somebody is asking. Okay, it's got interrupted. Just a minute. Yeah, this is the question. No, that's a different question. There was the first one, which I saw here. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this thing keeps moving very fast. Yeah. So here is a question. Derek, what are your thoughts on introducing EI to kids? I don't know.
Yeah. You have that question.
And how do you think a parent can start to help kids, especially teenage, to get it? Yes.
That's a fantastic question. Did you know that in certain countries, select countries, now a couple of the Scandinavian countries, certain parts of Australia, again, sometimes the way the education system is set up, different provinces or states or counties are responsible for the education curriculum. That EI is taught to kids as young as 6 years old. Being able to deal with stress, or to empathize, or to have self-awareness, or to be able to deal with the myriad of complex emotions which begin as soon as we're born, is something that we need to begin to work on. And like any skill, the earlier we begin it, the better we become at it. So I am a huge fan of introducing EI in certain schools. I actually know for a fact there are a couple of schools in Kenya where they are contemplating, if they already haven't, began introducing EI, particularly at the primary school level, not even at secondary. So yes, I am a huge fan of that, or an advocate of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There was another question. What emotionally intelligent techniques do you use with Gen Z employees who seem out to steal your customers and money?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So first of all, I don't know who that comment came from. I can't see the chat, but
That's
already
from Dr.
you can
Melvin.
see in the way the person has phrased that question, they're talking about people who are stealing their customers. Now, listen, I don't know, whether that's true or not, but just to me, an emotionally intelligent way would not be to say these guys are stealing my customers. It's about how can I deal, perhaps, with generational differences within the workplace where people look at certain issues differently. You see, you have to reframe the way that you approach these things. And if your thinking is that these people are out to get me and to steal from me, then there's no way you're going to make progress. It's not about changing the Generation Z. It is about changing your approach to dealing with them, how you think about them, how they make you feel. Once you're able to deal with yourself, then you will find that being able to encourage them to perhaps be a little bit more honest becomes easier. But it has to change with you changing your attitude. That is emotional intelligence 101. That's how I'm going to respond to that person. You can't hammer that into your target market.
Great. Another person is asking, what about paralyzing emotions about financial challenges? You may have a lot of credentials, but low.
Sorry, just repeat that again. I had financial challenges. What was the end of it?
Yeah. That what about that's the way that question came in. What about maybe how do you deal them? How do you deal with emotions that arise from financial challenges?
I mean, this is life 101. Emotional intelligence is not about being able to create an environment where your financial fortunes change. It's about dealing with the realities of life, and whether those realities are financial or those realities are professional. For me, it's about self-management. It's about managing my mood and my emotions. It's about being able to develop resilience. It's about not being temperamental. And once I'm able to sort that out, you will find that there is clarity, because a lot of these difficult emotions, they narrow the way that we think. They narrow our thinking so that we have a limited interpretation of events. That limited interpretation of events could be, these are the only way that I'm going to make money. Okay? You can get triggered easily so that you're unable to actually look for clearer solutions. But being able to manage the stress that a financial challenge is giving you actually opens up your prefrontal cortex to thinking about new ideas, open ideas, thinking more clearly about how you can deal with whatever challenge you're facing.
Thank you. I particularly believe that when you allow more negative emotions, then you stop thinking clearly and your problems somewhat multiply. So even addressing financial challenges, it's not allowing them to overtake us. We've got to be in control. We've got to learn to stay calm. Yeah, even though they say be still. Yeah. Yeah, so there is one more question which we can talk about. What's your take on the current parenting crisis of early introduction of gadgets through cartoons? What impact does it have on the EI on the toddlers?
Well, I mean, that might be a separate conversation. I do have strong feelings about the introduction, particularly of social media to younger people. I think there's evidence, there's plenty of research to show that it might have more of a detrimental than a positive effect. And to me, if a child is just stuck on their gadget and they're unable to check in with themselves and deal with self-awareness, or they're using social media perhaps to escape from whatever difficult emotions that they might be going through, then to me, that's where it begins to be a problem. But also, on the other hand, some of this modern technology, like certain apps that allow you to check in with yourself, that allow you to, to provide mood meters about how you feel, are also positive. So that is where technology can help me, because if I can check in with myself and I realize that I am actually perhaps not in the best frame of mind, then I can do something about it. And the gadget has helped me, or the device or the app or technology has helped me with that.
Thank you very much. So at this moment, well, for those people who are asking where to get the recording, you can follow in our YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/@powermonday. I'd put a link there. And you will be able to get it perhaps from Wednesday, usually from Wednesday. And if you subscribe, of course, you will be getting notifications when we upload it. And then you can also share with the people, or even if you came late, even the previous sessions are there, and we will be happy to keep sharing. And another thing is, like I said at the beginning, we do this every day. I'd like to call somebody to give a vote of thanks. I see Maurice has asked another question. Is there a link between EI and personality or character types? And what can one do?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty contentious. That's
Yes?
actually a pretty contentious question. So there are some people, some practitioners who believe your personality is intrinsically tied to your emotion. I come from, I'm a what we call a Genos certified emotional intelligence practitioner. And the way that we learned emotional intelligence was that it's not about personality. Okay, it's actually about it's more of a behavioral approach to emotional intelligence. Now, having said that, suddenly you can look at your personality and say that person, based on his personality type, might be driven to behaving a certain way. But regardless of your personality type, all of us can choose to have some self-awareness. I don't need a personality type for me to check in with myself every morning and to realize I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling excited. Why am I feeling excited? What do I need to do going into my Power Monday meeting? So that's how I sort of answer that particular question when it comes to personality type. But it's certainly a conversation that many practitioners around the world and people indeed who are interested in emotional intelligence talk about.
Thank you very much. I think we need to just give a vote of thanks. Melvin, maybe you can give a vote of thanks on behalf of Power Monday community. Yes, Derek has shared his LinkedIn link. You can
Yes,
follow.
link, and I hope you saw also the one with my other contacts.
Yes, we saw that
Yes, fantastic.
particular screen. Melvin, are you in a position to do that?
Right. On behalf of Power Monday, I really want to thank Derek for gracing our show once again. And he's left us with a number of questions about how we are managing our emotions. And we've got our homework all cut out for us. We can't get enough of you, Derek. But what I must say is that for those of us in the audience who want to get in touch with their emotions, to become more empathetic, to have a greater impact in society and on the people that they serve, you want to get in touch with Derek on the side. He's got a number of programs which will take you from wherever you are, which is probably in a place where you are not as empowered as you could be, to where you should be. So thanks so much, Derek. I also want to thank everybody in the background at Power Monday, including OPP and his entire team. And we look forward to meeting you next week. But we would also really be grateful if Derek would come back yet another time in the future, and if not, maybe make a tailor-made course for us here at Power Monday, because he's got our feelings, he's gauged where we are, You know all those responses. He was recording them. So he knows exactly where we are. Those of us who think that we are emotionally intelligent, those of us who think we are midway, and those of us who think that we are not emotionally intelligent. So thanks so much, Derek. Thanks so much, the Power Monday team, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Great,
Back to
great,
you.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Right.
much, Dr. And it's good to note that right now, your organization, all the participants can choose to partner with Power Monday for a session or two or for more, and we will be able to work together in uh, building each other. And you can reach us for more. For people who may want to join our WhatsApp group, just go to liveyourdream.co.ke/Power Monday, and you will get a form there and fill. Please, this is not a form to share with your colleagues and everywhere and tell them fill in and join Power Monday. It will not help them. So only people who've actually attended are the people we recommend to fill the form and join the Power Monday community. We meet, we share more during in the WhatsApp group, and every Wednesday it's a market day for all of us. We share about what we do, and we usually also organize meet and greet. We do a lot of things, including some charity works together, just to build us as a community. So you are all welcome.